Welcome to Tech London, a show featuring interviews with London's top creative entrepreneurs, startups, investors, design agencies, internet marketers, and freelancers that make up the Tech London online community, which mostly lives on the Slack instant messaging platform. We rotate through both hosts and guests for these interviews, so you have the chance to hear from multiple perspectives on London's tech scene. So hello and welcome back. I'm Jonathan Bailey-Strong, one of the founders of the Tech London community. And today I'm joined by Paul Gosnell, who's the founder of Fitlink, which he's going to tell us all about. So Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'd love for you to tell us just a little bit about your background and what led you to start Fitlink.
Okay, so without sort of boring you with my life story, yeah, I've sort of been involved in tech for the past 15 years or so. I'm a self-taught developer from back in the day. I unfortunately don't get much time to sort of practice my coding skills anymore. But yeah, Fitlink came from a string of many different projects, startups, businesses. Many have failed. A few did okay, and then Fitlink came from a place of one, trying to solve a problem, but two, passion. I'm very passionate about what it does and what it stands for. So I'm a runner. So a few years ago, I was I think it was a Tough Mudder event, and there's a few of my friends, and we'd all signed up for this Tough Mudder running event, and in the build up, we were training. So we're running and training and doing lots of runs, and just pure coincidence, we were all using different tracker apps. So I was using Strava, somebody else was using Runkeeper, and somebody else was using Nike. And because of that, we were invisible to each other. Other than meeting up, every sort of couple of weeks for a run together, most of us ran by ourselves as individuals and would track our runs. And there's a part of me that is curious or competitive, and I was just wanting to know how far they're running, how quick are they? Am I quicker than them? Are they quicker than me? And just seeing how often they ran, just, their curious mind, but also it's great for motivation as well. We used to just upload our runs, share them up to Facebook, and then we could then comment and look and, but that would annoy our non-runner friends after a while, because we used to do that quite a lot. 3 runners constantly sharing runs and chatting about them. So it was a bit clunky, and it wasn't the best way of doing it. And back then I was looking for a solution which would solve that problem about just connecting us all. And none of us wanted to leave. We were quite loyal to our individual apps or wearables, so we weren't prepared to all leave and join one which would solve the problem. But we wanted to continue using them. There was nothing really out there at the time that solved that problem. There were a few things similar, but they came with a load of other features and other things. But I just wanted to do that one thing, solve that one problem. So I decided just to build it. So I built a really terrible, crude prototype, a web app that at least connected the trackers that we were using, and just created one single feed. Couldn't really comment on stuff, but we could see each other's runs and the data from those runs. And sort of that's where Fitlink was born, just solving these problems between me and my mates. And then, it became like an obsession with me. Every time I'd run, I'd think about this product. And back then I didn't have a name for it, but the whole premise of linking people, and fitness, and the name came, one of those light bulb moments on a run. The name Fitlink came from nowhere. Did the domain name check, and it existed. So because I'd registered the domain name, to me that the business was done. Domain name's registered. But that's where it started. And every run I would sort of think about other features and how it could progress, and talk to many other runners. And you could tell his appetite for it, and the problem was real, and other people felt the problem. So that's sort of where the idea was born.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I like that there's that synergy between having ideas and the app you're, the business that you're working on at the same time. I often find that some of my best work is like some of my best thinking is done away from the desk, away from being in front of the computer. So I quite like that.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally. I almost created this habit that, whilst I was off running or doing stuff, that's the time I would dedicate to thinking about this product or
yeah,
this, and that it just became, it became just a thing I do. And it's surprising, people that I talk to now, a few years on, and they all come to me with a feature or an idea or something, and without sounding too arrogant, I'll only be impressed if I haven't thought about it, because I've spent so long thinking about every possible feature or function or how this thing could work that on these runs, that I'm very surprised if I haven't covered something in my thought process. So yeah, um, one of the sort of the key features that came from that, back then I wasn't convinced that just solving that problem was enough, that it was that as in from like a retention point of view. I think people would be motivation to solve that problem, but then it's just like the ongoing retention. How do I keep them engaged and keep them using the app? Is there anything else I can do to keep it sticky almost? And I remember sort of researching and looking into like gamification and stuff like that, and then stumbled across the whole air miles concept. The fact that you build up miles with your airline, and the fact that you've built up some value, some miles with a particular airline, or you're more likely to go back to them to rebook because you don't want to lose the miles you've built up. And I think in reality, people never really use their miles up; they never really benefit from it. But it's sort of just in the concept of it works. The psychological part of it works, that you feel loyal to that. So I was thinking, could the same thing exist for running miles instead of air miles, run miles? So every mile you run with Fitlink, it's earning you points, and those points are in effect a currency. They would unlock. You could spend those points on something which is, ideally healthy related or running related. So yeah, this is where the whole sort of rewards part of Fitlink came from. That activity or movement gets converted into points, and those points can be spent on rewards, or at least unlock rewards, and then the user can then go and spend their rewards on them. But it's the same principle. You're building up, actually the mileage that you're tracking is going towards something greater, like a reward.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. And I'm curious, like so the way that you're using Fitlink, well, Fitlink is being used is primarily through employee well-being, so as a employee well-being solution, correct?
Exactly
I'm
right.
curious,
Yeah.
like, what made you decide to transition from, maybe it sounds like originally it was kind of like a consumer application. What turned it from selling to consumers and selling to businesses? Curious about how you came to
Yeah.
that decision.
So that's a fairly recent, no, I say recent, sort of about a year ago. I was a combination of somebody reaching out, one of the users reaching out to me direct, and then just chatting to some friends where I live who were trying to get. One guy was trying to get a cycle to work scheme up and running and was failing. He's like, "Oh, how do I get this? I'm trying to sort of like promote cycling to work at my company. There's like, there's the bikes scheme. We can help people buy bikes, but we just can't get enough people doing it. Like, any suggestions?" And I think he was talking to me more from a marketing point of view, or that's how I answered him. I was like, "Well, how are you raising awareness? How are you actually getting the message out there? What are you doing to let people know that there is this available?" And he's like, "Well, we sent an email." I was like, "And anything?" No, that was it. We just sent one email to the whole company about it. I said, "Well, that's never going to work. You want to be on this every day, every week, every month, promoting it." And I actually have an app which could help you. I was thinking on my feet. I could create a version of Fitlink, which at least you've got a vehicle. You've got a way of you know, pushing out a message to all your staff around how being fit and healthy is good, and that if people were to use their bike to cycle to work, they could potentially earn points and get rewarded for that. And if you can fund, some rewards like Fitbits or money off cycling gear, then that's a great way of, creating awareness, advertising it, and then rewarding people for doing it. And he was like, brilliant. And that's sort of like one of the first early things we did. Excuse me. And then again, that's where it was born. This idea of, it was a whole new industry, a whole new world I didn't know about, like the terminology, buzzwords, employee engagement, workplace wellness. I'm completely sort of submerged in it now. I know a hell of a lot more than I did back then. And then just opened up and thought, yes, it's a no-brainer. Obviously, companies are looking, in particular HR people are looking to, are passionate about the well-being and the health of their employees. And it's the question of how. They're aware that they need to do something. Your mental health nowadays is a massive, massive thing. Everybody's trying to talk about, to try and do something about, which is brilliant. But the question for a lot of, whether it's mental health or physical health, or just trying to create a healthy company culture, the biggest question for them is, how do I do it? And that's where Fitlink comes into play. Well, now it's a way of doing it. It's a cool app that people can download and use. It's a great user experience. They can connect it to their activity trackers they're already using, so there's no friction. It's just plug and play. And then from the HR person, we've built them this really cool dashboard where they can sort of administer, manage the whole campaign. They can then see the stats, how healthy is my company? Well, now because you've got the stats to prove it. And then they're in full control of, they can create challenges like step challenges, cycle to work, even mindfulness, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep. It's all trackable through Fitlink. And then the rewards are, again, really, really powerful part of it. So the employer can now start adding rewards to the app, and rewards might be slightly different. It could be things like 1 hour off work. If you cycle to work every day for a month, you might get an afternoon off work as a reward for doing it. So that's great motivation. Great way of rewarding people for doing something. And then actually, literally, something I'm quite excited about. A conversation I had today was I reached out to a company that is planting trees. You spend some cash, donate some cash, and they'll go off and plant some trees in the UK. So there's a huge, massive sustainability message there, and they're talking to businesses about their CSR commitment. So the spin on it for Fitlink is that could be a reward. So if people are, being fit and healthy within the workplace, they can ask that their company plants some trees for them as their reward. So yeah, it's all sort of linked in. It's a brilliant way of just allowing people to, like I say, promote active and healthy workplaces.
Yeah. That's great. And obviously, like, Fitlink isn't your first rodeo. I'd love to hear, like, what kinds of learnings have you taken from previous projects or businesses you've worked on, and how have you applied them going forward?
Yeah, no, you're right. It's not my first rodeo. I've fallen off quite a few already. But no, I think I don't think my sort of path or my journey is unusual. I think a lot of self-taught developers or designers or anybody that can easily create a product, they can just do that at ease. So when I sort of got into the whole tech world, and I figured out how I could build, probably now what I'd call very awful websites, but back then it was quite easy to create a website, get it live, start looking at SEO. And back when I first started, I don't think Google AdWords even existed. There was something called Accenture or something, or like a Microsoft were the first guys that had a PPC program. Anyway, yeah, so it was quite easy just to get something live, get some traffic to it, and sell stuff and do stuff. So I have literally tried, price comparison websites, apps, Twitter bots, job sites, the standard things that we all try. And some have been great, and some have been massive failures. Most, to be fair, have been failures, but that's actually a good thing. That's where I've learned the most. And I think there's the whole thing around failing or taking a long time to fail, and the longer it takes to fail, obviously the more money it costs you if you are funding something. So that's something I learned, just to fail quick. If something's not working, just obviously pivot and look at why and try and change, but don't be so. I've been guilty of just being proud and sort of convincing myself that it will work. Just keep trying, keep going for it. It will work. It will find its moment and just take off. But it's just learning that sometimes you do have to sort of, take it on the chin and get out, but then go again, something else. Go again, pivot, go again, do something else. But where I think I found some success is not diving feet first into something. I've bootstrapped a lot of my own projects, and again, the mistake I've made in the past is just going all in on something, forgetting about the day job and the fact you've got to pay bills and going all in on something else. Then it doesn't work. You run out of cash, and then you're in a bad place, and you have to start again. So it's trying to find that real fine balance of, finding something which pays the bills and also can fund your side project is hard to do, but it's possible. And then just being really strict with yourself about not spending so much time on your free work. And it's just that fine balance. It will take longer for sure, but it will definitely, it's worth doing. It's what I've done with Fitlink, and Fitlink's at that place now where I'm just sort of trying to build it slowly, but sustainably. It's growing. There is growth there. We've got customers, good users. We've got about 5,000 users now, which is brilliant, and 20 odd business users as well. But that's the focus. We're actually, watch this space, in a couple of weeks, hopefully by the end of November, we'll be launching with a version 2. And this brings me to a point I would probably forget to make, is that I've been way too, I don't know if arrogant or too confident, but I've thought that I can do this by myself. I thought that I can do this. I don't need anybody else. I've got the skill. I got enough of different skill sets to be able to get something off the ground, at least to a place where, it could then fly. But I haven't been able to do that. Recently, I've sort of, I started working with a bunch of guys here probably over 2 years ago now. They're a bunch of guys based in Portugal and South Africa. They're called Lab 19. Dave is the key guy there that I know really well. And he helped me with Fitlink, with one of the websites that I was working on at the time. He helped me rebuild the first Fitlink business website, and they loved the product. They loved what it stood for and everything around it. And one conversation led to another, and they were quite passionate, and they believed in it. So it was one of those sort of brilliant stories where I said to them that I'd love for you guys to join me on this mission. My mission is to make the world fit, healthy, and happy. They were like, that's brilliant. We'd love to help support you in doing that. So well, let's all do it together. So those guys have come on board. There's 3 of them, but they've got a team behind them as well. So there's probably about 5 or 6 people working on Fitlink now, which has enabled me to completely rebuild the entire stack from the ground up. So everything's been rebuilt in React. There's a new backend, new iOS and Android app. Plus, we've managed to build in some killer features. And a design refresh. So for me, I've not only partnered and found some awesome resource, but I found some people that truly believe in it and hopefully are as passionate about what Fitlink stands for as I am. And this is what the relaunch is all about. This is V2. So, but I suppose the underlying message I was trying to get across there is, I managed to now progress this with people, with other people. So finding other people that believe in something that you do, who you have similar visions, similar goals, then that's been a massive turning point for me and a learning curve. And I've just gutted it didn't happen sooner. If I met these guys 5 years ago, could have been a different place right now. But never look back, always look forwards, and just really excited to have them on board and to see where we can take this.
Awesome. Excellent. So if people want to find out more about Fitlink, and where's the best place for them to go?
So we've got our website. The main website is fitlinkapp.com. So fitlinkapp.com is the main website. That's there. It's a slightly stripped back version at the moment because, like I say, we're about to have V2 launch in a few weeks. Reach out to me directly. I'm paul@fitlinkapp.com. With anything, whether it's workplace wellness or anything like that at all, just want to use the app or ask me any questions. More than happy to give back to the community. But yeah.
Obviously, you're also on the Slack group, and something you mentioned earlier that you reminded me that you were actually one of the very early adopters of the Slack community, and you're actually one of the part of the admin team at the very beginning. So, I just wanted to thank you for everything that you've done to help us as well.
Well, no, I mean, I haven't. To be fair, I haven't. When you guys first launched, I was one of the first guys to get on board and loved it and was trying to help out. And I was trying to moderate and help out as best I could. But like of all best things, I got busy with another project and time ran out. But no, that was. I think we were talking earlier. That was like 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
Which seems nuts that 5 years have gone so quick. But awesome community. I'm always still live on Slack and always nip in source of inspiration, research, connecting with other people. It's brilliant for that, definitely.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Paul.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Jonathan. Really, thank you.
Cheers. You've been listening to the Tech London show. If you're interested in joining the community or even making an appearance on this show, make sure you join our Slack group over at techlondon.io. Till next time.